Welcome to the 8th episode of Kabbalistic Mystic, the podcast for the Western Seeker, where we explore the tree of life and the ancient Hebrew wisdom as the lost spiritual heritage of the West. I'm your host, Ovadia Batat. Social media has been buzzing through the last week since Elon Musk, the innovator, billionaire, and the CEO of Tesla Motors and SpaceX, suggested that we might be living in a video game of sort. Well, I'm here to tell you that he is right. Well, sort of. Ancient wisdom and illuminated mystics and sages throughout the history have told us something very similar. Life is an illusion, a five-sensory hologram experienced by our mind. Now let's call this game life. It's intricate and it's complex, and one can spend many lifetimes studying how to play it. But in this episode, we'll introduce a brief summary of how the game works and the playing rules, reflecting a common thread between various Eastern, Western, and esoteric spiritual wisdom, and of course, heavily leaning on the ancient Hebrew wisdom. Let's begin. All right, so let's go back to Elon Musk. Here's what he said on stage at Code Conference 2016.
I think here's, in my mind, like the strongest argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following. That 40 years ago, we had Pong, like two rectangles and a dot. That
Right.
was what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. And soon we'll have virtual reality, augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality. So given that we're clearly on a trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes, it would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
So, in other words, Elon Musk suggests that most likely we're nothing but pawns in somebody else's game, and this life is not really the real reality. Well, as we said, he is right to some extent. For everything to function, there must be a mechanism. And just like there's a mechanism which animates our physical reality, the laws of nature, physics, chemistry, etc., there's a mechanism that animates the world beyond, the backstage of the physical universe as we know it. Welcome to the game of life, where you are a player. You have chosen to play this game, which really entailed dropping into a simulated reality in which you do not know that it is a game. And we will now review what the game is, some of the playing rules, and most importantly, tips on how to play it well and, of course, have fun. And the first question that comes to mind is, what is the game of life? Life is a game in which we move back and forth between two states. The first one, which is the one you know well since we're in it right now, is called space-time. It's a state in which we have 3 dimensions of space. That is, we can move about space, left and right, up and down, forward, backwards. But we have only 1 dimension of time, the present moment. For example, I'm writing or I'm speaking or I'm doing something, I'm eating lunch in Spokane while my brother in Jerusalem is eating dinner, shall we say, or sleeping actually at the same time. But we're both in those 2 spaces at the exact same time. Different dimensions of space, but 1 dimension of time. You cannot be in the future or in the past. You can only think about the future or the past. Time is stretched as a continuum, and you're always in the point of the present. Now, space-time, as we said, is where we are right now. Before birth and upon death, though, we move into a state called time-space. Like everything in the universe of duality, our reality has a polarizing mirror which reverses the rules. And time-space is a state where time is not a continuum, but instead a three-dimensional reality. But space, on the other hand, is not three-dimensional, but a fixed state. That is to say, there is no movement in space. Everything exists in one little tiny dot, which is just another way to say that there is no matter. So in time space, you have three dimensions of time and one dimension of space, which means there is really no body, no matter. We can move back and forth in time, but we cannot move in space. We can experience the past, not just think about it, but actually experience it, and we can see all possibilities and probabilities of potential futures. But we have no body. We are pure consciousness in time space, which is, in essence, is really what we are. Now, moving back from time space to space time, in which we can move in three-dimensional space but cannot move in time because it's a fixed in as a continuum, is called our incarnation. And this process of incarnation is called involution. Involution is an involuntary choice to incarnate in order to experience evolution. It is the only way to advance in the game. It is done thousands of times again and again so that we can evolve our own consciousness. Advancement in the game, that is, expansion of consciousness, is only possible during incarnation. That is when you are in space-time. And that's because of three reasons. First of all, in time-space, where we're pure consciousness, our consciousness is not limited. But here in space-time, it is manifested as one infinitely specific permutation, sort of like one color from a color palette. And that's our personality. And so we get to play at expanding it. But when we're in time-space, it's already expanded, so really there's nothing to expand. Our consciousness here in space-time is covered with a thick veil of forgetfulness, which we get at birth, which prevents us from knowing where we are and knowing for sure that this is really a game. And without it, the game wouldn't be meaningful, really. So in other words, to play the game right, we are required to take a leap of faith. We must believe that there are invisible rules which cannot and will never be able to be proved or shown in a lab. And let's talk a little bit about these rules. So the next question is, what is the objective of the game? Now, there's many levels to this game, and we as the human race are playing in the third level, and it's called the third density. We spoke in previous episodes of the fact that everything is made of light and differs only in its rate of vibration, that is, the density of the light particles, and that that is what causes our mind to perceive it in a particular way as a specific type of matter. Well, there's many dimensions that our minds are not tuned to perceive, just like a radio, because of the density or the rate of vibration. And those are different levels of the game. And the experience that we have right now is only in a particular level of density, which is the third level of the game, third density. And to experience the next level, fourth density, we must graduate ours. So let's focus on the third level, which is the one we're in. The objective in this level is to allow as much light as possible to pass through the temporary playing piece or physical vessel we call the body. And we call this process of embodying light and letting it pass through us enlightenment or illumination. The cosmic light, which animates all that exists in the universe, is passing through our astral body via 12 different filters, which together creates an infinite range of human expression, that is, our personality. And we call those lenses the Zodiac Signs. And each one of us contains all of them. Each sign represents an extreme states of consciousness we're all able to embody in the right circumstances. Aries, for example, represents a state of consciousness in which you are the ultimate warrior an altered state of consciousness in which you're capable and ready to kill, to defend your life or the lives of those you want, those you love. Not in mind, but physically, right there and then. So that state of consciousness is not just a mental state, but also a physical state. It's real. It's right there and then when the adrenaline is pumping and you have that tunnel vision reserved to the battlefield. That's right there is Aries. And so on and so forth for each sign. Each sign has its own state of consciousness, both mental and physical, that is sort of the extreme state of consciousness that you can embody in the perfect circumstances. Now, we don't live in these states of consciousness all the time, but each and every one of us is capable to embody them all if we're forced to that particular circumstances. Now, the goal of the game is to expand our consciousness so that we are able to embody the entire range at will. And in reality, there's only one real state of consciousness. We know it intellectually, and unfortunately only at times experientially, as unconditional love. Embodying it at all times is the ultimate purpose of our level. So really, by learning to embody all states of consciousness at will, it's the same as saying that we, at any point in time, embody unconditional love. Because embodying unconditional love means that we also have to present a polarizing state of consciousness to whatever reality that we're facing in that particular moment. Embodying unconditional love at any moment is required for us to graduate to the next level of the game. Fourth density. In all other states of consciousness, also experienced as various emotions, are really a derivative of unconditional love. Now, in Hebrew wisdom, we term this balance between pure love, unconditional love, and other emotions as love versus fear, or we can also call it expansion versus contraction. When we contract, we become afraid and we do not let the light pass through us, which is, of course, required for us to function in this reality, at least in the state of consciousness that we're in, because we have not yet learned to let the light pass through us fully. Now, the zodiac sign, as building blocks of our consciousness, you can really think about those as a color palette. White contains all colors and reflects unconditional love. However, when you pass it through a prism, it breaks to 7 different colors of the rainbow, right? Now add the half steps in the right places and think black piano keys, not in every step, but just like that, and you get a total of 12. And this is how all colors and expressions of our personality correspondingly come to existence. And music is built this way too. This setup of 12 steps, 7 main steps and 5 half steps, is the way the entire illusory universe is built. It's the template of our existence. Now, allowing more light to pass through us is done by expanding our consciousness. And that must be done by experiential learning and not just intellectual. The more we experience, the more compassion and understanding we have towards others. Once you suffer from addiction, for example, you'll never judge another addict again. You'll never be afraid of someone who is an addict because they're an addict. Instead, you'll have compassion towards them. So the more we experience, the more light we allow to pass through us, and the more unconditional love we express inward and outward. So the next question that comes is, seriously, life is an illusion? Yes. Let's talk a little bit about how it works. Ancient wisdom tells us that in space-time, everything is false. Space-time, remember, is where we are. So everything is really false. And in time-space, where we go after we die, everything is true. In reality, we're really not looking outward. We're looking inward. Everything is within us. Everything you see, your neighbor, your cat, is a reflection of a piece within your consciousness. In fact, ancient wisdom tells us that it is all one. It is all one entity. The entire universe is a thought by the creator of this game. So you are a dancing thought. The Creator is thinking you and me into existence right now. That's why esoteric teaching tell you that God is within you. Now, God is just a name for something we cannot explain. The creator of this game, or the collective consciousness that is thinking all this into existence right now. It's like a giant computer who multi-process everything, all of life on this planet and in the universe into conscious existence at the same time. There's really no reality without conscious perception. I mean, think about it, so to speak. The entire universe disappears when you lose consciousness. For everything to exist, we must have cognitive perception of whatever's happening. Otherwise, it really doesn't happen from our perspective. And this is because life is nothing but light animated into existence via our individualized consciousness. You are nothing but a leaf in the tree of universal consciousness, the tree of life. Everything is light. Our mind perceives it as matter because of the differences in the density of the particles and the speed of vibration. Quantum physics is slowly catching up to this ancient concept. You are made of light, and your physical vessel is basically a prism that is acting as a resistor to it. Just like an electronic device is a resistor to the electricity that is coming from the wall and is being animated by it, you are being animated by the cosmic energy by resisting to it. The more energy you let pass, the more illuminated you are, and the more you illuminate the world. The game of life, this pure light, is experienced by our perception as love. Next question. Who is the one playing the game? Is it me? In short, you are the one playing, but it is not the I you know to be you. Instead, it is a timeless version of you which was never born and will never die, at least not in the sense of time as you know it. The real you, which is a complex matrix of mind, body, spirit, being, basically pure consciousness, is always working to advance through the game. When you are in time space, which is where we go after we die, so to speak, right? When we drop our body, the consciousness, your consciousness, is planning its next move in the game, since it has access to all knowledge, to all past and future information, to all the collective consciousness. So it can plan what lesson it needs to learn and what would be the appropriate incarnation to support these type of lessons in order to evolve its own consciousness. So think about it as if it is waiting for its turn to play. When you are in space-time, our perceived reality, your consciousness is working in the dark, but actually making progress. This reality that you're in right now is the game board. Incarnation is your turn to play. From the moment you're born until the moment you die. This is your turn. Now, you chose this incarnation and you planned it, sometimes with the help of your higher self, which is nothing but yet another version of you that exists in this same moment in a different and much higher level of the game, a much higher density. You see, all is happening at the same time. In this illusion, time is stretched for you to feel as if it's a continuum, as if it's passing. But in reality, there's only one tiny brief moment. Einstein told us that with gravitational wave theory, which was recently proven. And the I you know to be you and you think is playing the game is merely your ego personality that you strapped on due to the veil or forgetfulness you have embodied upon birth. Physically, you're mistaking the edges of your body to be you, and you have developed an attachment to it as who you are. And this makes the game interesting, challenging. Mentally, you associate yourself with the labels you've piled on through your life because that's all you know. Your gender, right? You're a boy, you're a girl. Your race, your nationality, your profession, your likes, your dislikes. Your detachment from these labels is required for you to realize your true nature. This detachment is called ego dissolution, which is a very painful and lengthy process. But when it happens, you jump ahead in the game by leaps and bounds. How much control do I have? Well, you have full control, which is commonly called free will. And yet you have no control whatsoever. Let me explain. It's not like there is an external entity that is playing and you're just the game piece. That is, you're being animated by a different entity. In this particular game, in the game of life, you have free will. You decide what you're going to do. You can animate your body. Your current incarnation is bound by a path called life programming. It's created by you and your higher self. It includes many things, among them your special powers in this incarnation, like special skills you have. Maybe you're a gifted musician or a painter. Maybe you didn't know. Maybe you're a poet and you didn't even know it. Maybe you're good at building things or can run really fast. Your life programming also includes predetermined limitations like sickness or what we call birth defects. It includes a choice of parents and a choice of the environment, a choice of the time of birth to establish your zodiac tendencies and much, much more. It says in esoteric teaching that your being, your pure consciousness is making an agreement with the pure consciousness of your parents that you will be their child. And that is done in time-space. Now, the purpose of each incarnation is to find a path that would utilize the life programming in the best way possible. And you do it by following the thread of what we call intuition, which is the way your highest self is communicating with you. And you do it by paying attention to your desires and aspiration, as well as to your fears and perceived limitations. You doing it by paying attention to coincidences and messages from the universe. Now, let's go back to free will. If you don't walk your path, life will be hard. When you do walk your path, despite your fears and limitations, doors magically open and serendipitous occurrences pave your way forward. It's like magic. The game is very intelligent. Life's not supposed to be that hard. But we have to learn to surf it. We have to learn to play it right. Things become easy. We call this path, when we walk on this path, we call it self-actualization or self-realization. You see, there's a cosmic intelligence in the chaos of the game. But it only works, it only being experienced for you if you walk your path. Which means you must face your challenges head on. Otherwise, if it wasn't built this way, what would be the point of the game? Think of life as a Rubik's Cube. When you have no idea how to play, it seems impossible. And when you know the technique, it's easy. It just flows. What looks like random chaos actually has cosmic intelligence behind it. The entire universe conspires to help you walk your path and achieve your life programming, follow your true desire. And your life programming, believe it or not, is your deepest ultimate desire. It is the ultimate pleasure you can experience. It is your Cinderella story. It's your hero's journey that was constructed just for you. You are the hero, but you must walk your path. So here's the deal. You are in full control of your temporary game piece, that is, your body. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can spend your life sitting on a couch eating potato chips and watching TV. And there is a chance in a billion that that is actually your life programming, right? I mean, there's just a chance. And that somehow will lead you somewhere. Because the truth is, anything we do leads us somewhere. Even if we don't walk our path, we will somehow get the lesson to point us towards our path. So really, everything you do is going to get you there. The question is how much you're going to suffer in the middle. Unlikely that sitting on the couch and eating potato chips is your life programming, but it's possible. Now, If you don't walk your path, which was designed to give you the utmost pleasure and realize your purpose in this incarnation, the game will continuously teach you the lesson you need to learn in order to go back to your path. You know you're learning a lesson because you are suffering deep within. If you're not now, because you are what is called in esoteric teaching asleep, you know you are suffering. You will know that you're suffering one day. In the New Testament, this is called the dead. There's the dead and the quick. The quick is the one that knows the true nature of reality. The dead is the one that doesn't even know that they're suffering, or those who know that they're suffering but don't know why. Something will snap you into reality at some point. For me, for example, it was chest pains after years of refusing to quit my corporate job and refusal to admit that I wasn't happy with my life. For you, it might be something else. There is no avoiding walking our path without suffering. When you do walk your path, you just know it. I know I need to do this podcast. I have no idea why. At this particular moment when I'm recording it, I have 0 reviews. I have 0 listeners, at least for all I know. But I know I need to do this. It doesn't matter. Things are just lining up for me to do it. And even if I'll have just 1 listener who's going to gain from it, that's good enough for me. Anything is worth doing if you're doing it just for you. In other words, let's go back to the question at hand: who's in control of your game? Instead of saying that you have free will, we can say that you have free choice. You have a choice to walk the path or learn valuable lessons. In Judaism, there's a prayer that says, the entire world is a very narrow bridge, and the point is never to be afraid. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, והעיקר לא לפחד כלל. And now, those of you who know that quote know what this means. It's your narrow path, your life programming, and to walk it, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. Fear is the only thing that's stopping us walking our path. Oh, my fear is that I'm not going to make money, and so, I wouldn't quit my corporate job. Fear that nobody's going to care about my podcast, so why am I doing it? Fear is the only thing that stops us. So you are in control of your game piece because you have free choice to walk your path or not. All right, next question. If life is an illusion, does this mean I don't have to pay my taxes or that I can be an asshole? Well, not quite. You see, this is your own individualized Truman Show, for those who've seen the movie. But it's also everyone else's Truman Show at the exact same time. Now, you're bound by the rules of nature and also by the rules of the society, which were created by those you chose to play with. You have descended into a playboard, and the rules of the game in this particular playboard apply. There's free will to everybody, and there's a collective free will for the society to decide how it wants to function. So just like you are learning the lessons yourself through time, the society as a collective is learning its own lesson and evolving through time. As in the micro, so is in the macro. Every action creates a reaction. If you don't pay your taxes, you will suffer social consequences, regardless if you think taxes are fair or not. That's a choice you can and must make. Maybe it's a part of your path to not pay your taxes. You must walk your path within the constraints you have descended into while incarnating. Now, about being an asshole. There's a major rule to the game called the law of karma, and it's a bitch. When you infringe on somebody else's free will, or free choice as we call it, you cheat them, you steal, you give false information, you act mean, and of course you kill them, which is the ultimate infringement on someone's free will to live. You accumulate karma, which is nothing but energetic debt, which must be resolved. So if you throw a stone in the air, it is bound to come down and hit you at some point. That is, by being an asshole, you accumulate a list of painful lessons. So how do we avoid these lessons? And is there a rule of thumb that we can live by? And I'm going to let Bernie Sanders answer that.
Every great religion in the world Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, essentially comes down to do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. And what I have believed in my whole life, I believed it when I was a 22-year-old kid getting arrested in Chicago fighting segregation. I believed it in my whole life, that we are in this together, not words. The truth is, at some level, when you hurt, when your children hurt, I hurt. I hurt. And when my kids hurt, you hurt. And it's very easy to turn our backs on kids who are hungry or veterans who are sleeping out on the street. And we can develop a psyche, a psychology which says, I don't have to worry about them. All I'm going to worry about myself. I need to make another $5 billion. But I believe that what human nature is about is that everybody in this room impacts everybody else in all kinds of ways that we can't even understand. It's beyond intellect. It's a spiritual, emotional thing.
Do unto others as you wish them to do to you. It's the golden rule. Now remember, karma accumulates between incarnation. I'll repeat again, karma is not limited to your current incarnation. It accumulates between incarnation. That is, it is not erased when you drop the body and go back to time-space. In other words, start playing nice today. And it also means that you might be resolving karma from previous incarnations. In fact, it is more likely the case. Forgiveness is the eradicator of karma, deep internal forgiveness both to self and others. And that is beautifully articulated by Ra. And we'll dedicate the time to this tool of transformation in the future. Next, I want to talk about, is there a trick to the game? Absolutely. It is called sexual polarity. Here's the deal. We live in a world of duality. Everything is a reflection of tension between the masculine, positive, and the feminine, negative principles. Jung taught us that no energy can exist without dynamic tension between two opposites. Einstein told us that energy is matter. And so all matter is really a reflection of tension between two opposites. This exists in the macro and the micro. The more we embody this and learn to recognize how this fact is reflecting in every moment, every emotion, every thought, every act of our lives, the easier this game is and the more progress we make. So what does it really mean? In reality, we're all androgynous beings. I've dedicated 2 episodes to this concept, and I think it's episode 5 and 6. Yeah, I think it is. But in short, in each incarnation, we are skewed to one polarity, not just physically in our sexual gender, but as a total sum of various tendencies towards the masculine or the feminine. We all embody both: our voice, our hand movement, our speech pattern, the way we dance, the way we think. And so we all have a hidden polarity within. It's the opposite of our normal expression. It works just like the law of electric charge. Things that are negatively charged and things that are positively charged pull on, that is, attract each other. Things that have the same charge repel each other. Since our conscious expression is always a derivative of love, this law is expressed within us via love. We fall in love with people who reflect that hidden polarity of us. That's why logic heads tend to fall in love with artists and musicians. I'm case in point, by the way. I fall in love with my wife. I used to call myself an Israeli redneck. Like, I was such a logic head. I used to always tell her, everything is logical, everything is logical. And I fall in love with this woman who's an artist, a yogi. I mean, just my absolute opposite. We are fascinated by what we do not understand because it is who we are underneath. It is automatic for us to evolve. It's built into us. At the same time, we're repelled by people who also reflect a behavior we demonstrate but do not realize that we're demonstrating. That is, they represent the same conscious charge that we demonstrate. Put two alpha males in one room and you'll see what I mean. Jung said, and I quote, "It is necessary to discover the opposite to the attitude of the conscious mind. We live," end of quote, "we live in a world of mirrors, reflecting the hidden sexual polarity of our soul." Everything we look at is reflecting that hidden sexual polarity, or reflecting our own polarization, what we cannot see. Engineers, for example, need everything to make sense, to be logical. They are mentally skewed to the masculine side. I was one, I know. The problem is that there's a whole other side to life, the abstract, the intuitive, the emotional, the feminine side. Not everything can be programmed into an algorithm. That's why machines will never be humans. There must be chaos in order for order to exist. Okay? So the same goes the other way. Being skewed to the intuitive, the abstract, will not get you far in the game. At the end of the day, if you don't control your emotions, they control you. It's the ultimate battle between man and woman, or masculine and feminine if you're gay, right? Each side of the partnership thinks it's better. And in reality, both sides are critical for our existence. That's why we work better as cells of romantic partnerships, because we're literally missing a half. The other half, so to speak, is completing the hidden part within us. You want the trick to the game? Learn to embody both. That is the essence of the psychospiritual journey. That is the essence of the game. Your partner is your highest teacher. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll deal with some other questions about the game. So here's another question. If life is a game, why am I not having fun? So I'll start answering philosophically. Philosophically speaking, and according to Buddhism and ancient Hebrew wisdom, it is because you are following your false desire. You're following the desire of your ego personality instead of your true self. Your ego personality wants to satisfy the appetites of the body. It wants to hide away. It doesn't want to face your fears. It wants money. Maybe it wants fame. Maybe it wants honor. It wants to be right. It wants to be loved. It thinks that all these things would do it. If I have more money, then I feel loved. If I have more fame, then I feel loved, so on and so forth. We always seek love. And so we follow the desire of the ego personality and we suffer. And we follow the desire of the ego personality because of the wound that we have, because of that loss of unconditional love that is really who we are. We anthropomorphize it in the shape of our mother and father, which are really the representation for the masculine and feminine essence that together combine and create the unconditional love, which is the essence of our true nature, of the pure consciousness that we are in time-space. Be this as it may, this answer doesn't really help you, right? It's just an intellectual statement to say, hey, you have false desire and let's turn it off. It's not really helpful. And this is one of the reasons why I feel that Buddhism hasn't served me in that particular level, because Buddhism states that we chase false desire and this is a source of all suffering, but I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of tools to deal with it. Now, ancient Hebrew wisdom and the Western methodologies are different. First of all, knowing that this is the case, and that's true for Buddhism too, it's the first step. So then you start paying attention and you make small step towards your true desire. You start asking yourself, what do I want in life more than anything else? What would you do? Here's a question. What would you do if you had 1 year to live? Seriously, think about that. What would you do if you had only 1 year to live? Most people would immediately throw something out there. When I asked my wife, what would you do if you had 1 year to live? She literally just puked out. I would leave everything and go on a road trip to see all the national parks. And I asked her, I said, so what's stopping you? And we are now 2 months later. She already bought an RV, a small RV. We sold our truck in order to make that happen. And next month, she's going to be leaving for a 4 month across the US on a 1982 VW camper. So she's actually living that. And oh my God, she's so much happier now that she's doing that. It's a challenge. It's a huge fear for her for many different reasons that I'm not going to go into. But that's what she's doing. So a simple question, what would you do if you had 1 year to live? What would you do on a daily basis if you had a year to live? And what do you want to do on a daily basis, regardless if you had 1 year to live? How do you want to choose to spend your time if your time was limited? Noticing our actions, noticing our emotions, noticing our thoughts is the key to everything, is the key to identifying true desire versus false desire. I'll say another thing about suffering. The story is always more intricate and bigger than we can see. In general, we must know darkness to know the light, right? It's the world of duality. Our suffering is usually related to our purpose. People often end up realizing themselves by helping others through the same suffering. I heard about a person who lost his legs, I think it was a TED Talk, climbing the Everest, and ended up opening a company for athletic prosthetics. In other words, your suffering is taking place to teach you something and is more likely than not related to your work in the world, to your purpose, to your path. It has the potential to make you stronger and a better person at the end. And we'll talk about how to deal with desire and false desire a little later in this episode now. But for now, I want to answer a different question, and it is, how is the game scored? So I'll first tell you how it is not scored. It is not scored through what religion has called sin, which is a term that has warped through thousands and thousands of years. There's a joke saying that Judaism invented guilt and Christianity spread it to the world. Sin in Hebrew actually comes from the same root of the word to miss. Remember we said you only have free choice. You don't really have free will. You have a choice to walk your path or not. You're either missing your path or you don't miss the path. That's what sin is. The word kind of changed over time, just like the word gay means something very, very different now than it did 100 years ago. The plastic is the same. Plastic used to mean flexible. Now plastic means, a particular type of material for us. So words do change, and the word sin took a whole different meaning throughout the years. Now the game is scored by how much love you embody and spread, how much light you pass through your game piece, through your temporary vessel. In other words, how much good you do in the world and how well you learn to unconditionally love yourself and others, how much love you express. And that, my friend, takes a lot more guts than doing bad things to other people. More technically, if we want to go that way, the game is scored by what's called polarization of our action. Ra explains that it's calculated very accurately. For example, to pass from third density to fourth, you must become a person whose actions are oriented towards others. That is, you're servicing others in your action 51% of the time. That is more than half of what you do. It's called positive polarization. And it's not an easy thing to do. It sounds easy, but it's actually not an easy thing to do. I don't know exactly, but I don't think it counts if you do good towards other people and they resent them because you expect something in return, for example. We're talking about doing things purely through unconditional love and not through personal glorification. That is, even if you don't get the credit. That is the only really pure way to do good things for other people. Now, in general, I'll recommend not to think about the scoring of the game, but rather to focus on your own development and actions, and the rest will follow. So, how do I play? Are there any cheat codes? Any tips to win the game? Sorry, no cheat codes, and no altering substances are not cheap cheat codes. They're not shortcuts. They can give you a temporary glimpse of the true nature of reality, and some can help you expand your consciousness by temporarily opening neural pathways that are usually closed, but nothing more. At the end of the day, you must do this clean. I remember seeing a movie with Ram Dass, and he says that at some point, after getting so trashed and so high, and doing LSD and just being like so high for so long, they realized that it's always just a high that followed by a low, and at the end of the day, they must, it's just not being retained. Whatever they get in that state is not being retained, and so at the end of the day, you must walk your path clean. Now, the best way to win the game is first to understand that the game is infinite and there really is no winning. I read somewhere, I think it was Quo, that it's like a meal, and as long as you're what we call alive, you'll keep being served food. So really, there's no winning, there's only playing. Your best measure as to your performance level is how much you love and how much you are enjoying your life regardless and despite the circumstances. Not on the outside, how much you show that, but deep down within, beyond the anger, beyond the grief, beyond the fear, beyond the difficulty. Life can be hard. In fact, it is hard for all of us. Suffering is subjective. You can be rich and famous and suffer horribly. If you suffer, you suffer. You can have everything in the world, including love, but still be depressed. We all suffer some way or another. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's how we live through the suffering that counts. Buddhism says this is a world of suffering. This is a reality of suffering. And the suffering is really what is pushing us forward, what propels us to learn and advance and to seek. Hebrew wisdom says that the best way to speed up your psychospiritual evolution is by leaning into the desire mindfully and consciously. Well, that is without accumulating karma, which means without hurting others. And now we're kind of going back to the concept of false desire versus true desire. And it's sort of the opposite strategy from Buddhism, which kind of tells you to drop your desire. In Hebrew wisdom, desire is the clue to your next step. It's actually your northern star. We follow the desire of our ego personality. We watch another episode on TV, we'll play another video game, we'll eat another cake, whatever it is that we do that we want to do, we follow the appetites of the body. But at the same time, we ask, why are we doing what we do? Why do we desire what we desire? Why do we seek? Hebrew wisdom tells you that there is a reason why you desire what you desire, because you have to dissolve your ego personality. So by following the desire of the ego personality, but at the same time ask why, you can understand what elements of your ego are causing that desire, and slowly and steadily they will be peeled like onion, like onion, just one after the other. Most human behavior is an escape so that we don't feel. We escape with drugs, with alcohol, with sugar, with food, with things that we buy, and fast cars, with mindless activities, with TV, with our smartphone, with technology. Pay attention. Know thyself. There is a reason for our false desire. There are no shortcuts. Squashing the desire will just make it grow. The only way to eliminate desire is to study it and somehow satisfy it safely and without hurting others. We only then can understand what it is that we seek. When we do, the desire drops. There's only one road ahead. Again, know thyself. Be playful. is another important tip. In fact, it should have been the first tip. It's a game. Don't take everything so seriously. Guilty as charged, by the way. How can you be more playful today? What do you love to do? Are you taking your dog to play in the park, or are you playing with your dog in the park? As kids, we used to play all the time. We forgot to do it as we became adults. Embracing the inner child while being mature at any age is one of the best strategies of this game. And one last tip is meditation. It allows you to find out what your true nature is faster, and it quiets the mind, which creates your false reality, making you miss the present moment, lamenting on the past constantly, and living in the future, projecting and prospecting on the future. So the more you meditate, the more you'll be present, and being present is the key to surfing the game. Meditate daily. Even if you don't know how, just sit and breathe and watch your thoughts sort of from the outside. Oh, that was interesting. I was just thinking about that. Just watch them. Meditation is a required step for any serious seeker, and it is a great tool for the beginner. So might as well start now. 10 minutes a day. Just do it. Just sit for 10 minutes. All right, here's another question. What if I don't want to play anymore? Well, I can only assume that if this is the question you're asking, but seriously asking it, coming from a deep place within, then you're tremendously suffering at the moment. And we all get there sooner or later, if not in this incarnation, in the next. It's actually a good sign, which means that you're closer to the light. In spiritual circles, this is called the dark night of the soul. For everything to be rebuilt, it must first be destroyed. And it's the point just before the phoenix rises from the ashes. So just keep going. Doing something horrible, such as terminating your life, can potentially accumulate karma you don't need, as you will be causing much suffering to those who love you. And believe me, there are people who love you. I love you. I know suffering can be tremendous. I was proud of being mentally stable individual, and deep down inside mocked for years those who were weak, including my wife, people who were depressed and emotional. And then my dark night came and lasted for over 2 years. I was shattered. I was dissolved, reduced to dust beyond my wildest dreams. There was a period of 6 months in which I woke up every morning and asked myself the same question. What if I don't want to play this game anymore? It's okay to ask. It's when you start planning when you should be worried and talk to a professional or to someone you love. That's what my professional consultant therapist told me. Don't give up. There is a reason for the suffering, even if you can't see it. Don't give up. The night is always darkest before dawn. Remember this. You volunteered for this involution, for this life. You chose it. It is your turn to play. You waited for it. Esoteric teaching tell us that in time-space, we cannot wait to go back to our reality, to space-time. It's like when you die, when you drop your body and return to your state of pure consciousness, it's like getting off a scary ride. You can't wait for it to be over while it's happening. But when it's done, you scream, let's go again, let's go again. Remember, your incarnation is the only opportunity we have to advance. You have to advance in the game. Your incarnation is the only chance you have. It is precious. It's not like, oh, if I terminate my incarnation, I just get to start all over again. It's not that simple. Make every moment count. So these, in short, are the rules and playing instructions I chose to share with you today. In summary, yes, Elon Musk, life is a video game, the most sophisticated 5-sensory hologram one can imagine, and much beyond. We only see a tiny fraction of it. It is truth that we all know deep inside. That's why we're so fascinated with what's beyond the stars, what's in the universe. We're really looking inside. There's a place inside where we came from, and to that place we shall all return. For those of you who are interested in learning more about this, there is a list of books I'm going to put in the show notes. Books like The Cosmic Game by Stan Groff, book like The Holographic Universe by Talbot, books like the Elegant Universe by, what's his name? Forgot. We'll put it in the show notes. And for those of you who are logic heads and somehow got to this podcast because of the title, Is Life a Video Game? The law of one, the raw material, could be something that you would be interested in because it's very logical. It's sort of like the only material I have, it's a channeling material, and it's the only material that I found that can potentially literally logic someone into believe in something beyond of what we see and can prove in a lab. It was a big part of my own psychospiritual transformation. This concludes the 8th episode of Kabbalistic Mystic. I want to thank Elon Musk for giving me a good topic to talk about, and for you guys for listening. Kabbalistic Mystic music was produced by Todd Milne from milnesounds.com, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with those you think might benefit and consider giving an iTunes review. Those can help me accumulate more listeners and spread the love. I'm your host, Ovadia Batat from Spokane, Washington, signing off. May you find love in every moment.